Iran will still receive $300 billion for post-war reconstruction. Israel is required to withdraw its troops from Lebanon and no longer attack Hezbollah. Ships passing through the Hormuz Strait will continue to pay a fee. In addition, all sanctions, including those at the United Nations level, will be lifted from Iran, and Iran's frozen assets will be unfrozen. Arab media published the agreement first, and today American media have published it too on ending the war between the US and Iran. And reading it just makes your eyes pop out. America has never experienced such a failure and humiliation, not to mention Israel. The agreement contains 14 points, and most of them are about what concessions the US is making and what Iran will get. And in return, Iran promises to hold talks about its nuclear program. Trump himself has already confirmed that a $300 billion fund will indeed be created for Iran. But supposedly, it won't be the United States itself financing this, but rather some individual businessmen who will be rebuilding Iran after the war. In Israel, people are anxious because the agreement fully abandons the interests of the US's partner. Well, for example, even though Hezbollah still remains a threat, Israel is required to withdraw all its troops from Lebanon. This is supposedly going to be the first test of the agreement's realism, which the Iranians demanded, and Trump agreed to it. Well, in this episode, let's take a detailed look at the agreement between Iran and the US, which has already appeared in media outlets around the world. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, and don't forget to leave your comment under this video and subscribe to my Telegram channel. Pechi News, the link to it is in the description of this video. So, I'll start with a statement from Donald Trump himself. Yesterday, he said that very soon everyone will see the agreement between Iran and the US, which will be signed on Friday. At that time, the Arab publication Al Arabiya and today both CNN and Reuters published the draft of that very agreement. Earlier, Reuters reported that the deal between the US and Iran includes the creation of an investment fund worth $300 billion. This refers to a private investment mechanism, not a government reconstruction program or grant allocation. So basically, Trump pulled off a scheme where companies themselves have to chip in and buy off Iran for its war. It is assumed that companies from the US, the Gulf countries, Asia, South America, and Africa will be able to participate in the financing. And today, Trump slyly stated that this isn't entirely true. Well, Iran will of course get the money, but the US won't be giving it. Quote, people can if they want to. What are we supposed to do? Ban someone from investing? But the US will not participate in the financing and won't give a single dime for this. Yes, ban someone from investing, but the US will not participate in the financing and won't give a single dime for this. Yes. But earlier it became known that the first unfreezing of Iranian assets will also be carried out not formally by the United States of America, but by Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. But in reality, it's because of the threat. The threat of US sanctions is the reason these assets were frozen for years, and everyone understands that without concessions from Donald Trump, Iran wouldn't have received anything at all. Well, let's move on to the document. The Memorandum of Understanding consists of 14 points, and paradoxically, the version that Al Arabi and American media are publishing today almost completely matches the one that Iranian media published last week. So it turns out there was a huge amount of truth in it. I should note right away that after the leak to the media, the Americans stated that some of the wording in this agreement is still being worked on, so it may differ from what is written in the published agreement. But I won't waste any time, I'll immediately quote that very agreement. So next will be the full text of the draft agreement between Iran and the US. Item 1. The Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States of America, together with their allies in the current war, declare after signing this Memorandum of Understanding on the immediate and final cessation of war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and commit from now on to undertake no hostile actions against each other and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other. Item 2. Iran and the United States commit to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Third, Iran and the United States commit to hold negotiations and reach a final agreement within a maximum of 60 days, but with the possibility of extension by mutual consent. So it's immediately clear that these negotiations could simply go on for months. Fourth, Immediately after the signing of this memorandum, the United States lifts the naval blockade and prevents any interference or obstruction against the Islamic Republic of Iran, and also restores full shipping operations within a maximum of 30 days. The volume of shipping must be proportional to the pre-war volume of shipping from Iran. The United States also undertakes to withdraw its troops from the adjacent areas within 30 days after the conclusion of the final agreement. Fifth, after the signing of the memorandum, Iran will immediately take steps to ensure the resumption within 30 days of commercial shipping from the Hormuz Strait to the Sea of Oman and back at pre-war levels, taking into account the need to remove technical obstacles and for Iran to clear mines. Sixth, the United States undertakes, together with its regional partners, to develop a plan for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran, agreed upon by both sides, while providing funding of no less than $300 billion. The mechanisms for implementing this plan within the framework of the final agreement will be developed within 60 days. Seventh, the United States undertakes to lift, according to a schedule to be agreed upon within the framework of the final agreement, all types of sanctions currently in effect against Iran, including United Nations Security Council resolutions and resolutions of the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, as well as all unilateral U.S. sanctions, both primary and secondary. If you didn't understand, it means that absolutely all sanctions existing anywhere in the world must be lifted. That means all restrictions will be lifted from Iran. Eighth, Iran once again declares that it will never produce nuclear weapons. Iran and the United States have agreed that the fate of enriched uranium and all other mutually agreed issues related to the nuclear program, including Iran's nuclear needs, will be properly resolved in the final agreement, which will be developed over the next 60 days. Ninth, Iran and the United States have agreed that until a final agreement is reached, they will maintain the status quo. Iran will maintain the status quo in its nuclear program, and the United States of America will not impose new sanctions against Iran or increase its forces in the region. This point is a total defeat for the United States of America. That is, Iran has clearly stated, until some final agreement is signed, which they are supposed to develop in the next 60 days, their nuclear program remains in effect and continues to operate as usual. And the Americans are obliged, first of all, not to touch this nuclear program under any circumstances, and secondly, not to impose any sanctions because it still exists. 10th, the United States undertakes that immediately after the signing of this memorandum and until the date the sanctions are lifted, the U.S. Department of the Treasury will issue permits. The export of Iranian crude oil, petrochemical products and their derivatives, as well as all related services, including banking, insurance, transportation, and so on. 11th, the United States undertakes that, in light of progress in negotiations toward reaching a final agreement, Iran's frozen or restricted funds and assets will be unfrozen and become fully accessible. These funds, whether they are in the main account or have been transferred, will be used for any final payment to the recipient designated by the Central Bank of Iran and will be fully available for use. The United States undertakes to issue all necessary permits and licenses on this basis. Once again, this means the total, complete unfreezing of all Iranian assets. 12th, Iran and the United States have agreed to establish a mechanism to monitor the successful implementation and future compliance with the final agreement. 13th, after the signing of this memorandum and receiving a guarantee regarding the commencement of the implementation of Articles 4, 5, 10, and 11 of this memorandum and the further execution of these steps, Iran and the United States will enter into negotiations to conclude a final agreement, exclusively regarding the remaining articles. And the final point, the final agreement will be approved by a binding resolution of the UN Security Council. Well, I don't even know what to add here. I just can't call this a victory for the US. Because at this stage, the US hasn't gained anything, absolutely nothing, except a promise to continue negotiations on the nuclear program. America definitely hasn't seen a failure like this before. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. There you'll find Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, even crypto wallets, bank details, and YouTube sponsorship. Choose whichever format is most convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.